Do you want to die as an old man filled with regrets, waiting to die alone? This is a question that has haunted me ever since I heard it, and I'm going to use it to break down the top 5 regrets of the dying to help young men avoid that future. The first regret of the dying is not having the courage to live authentically. And this is the most important and also the most difficult question to understand is who you are truly. Because when you get caught up in life, you're pushed to get a job, you're pushed to go to school, you're pushed to pay taxes, find a partner, have hobbies, and you can spend your whole life not knowing who you are and yet being so absolutely busy that you don't have the time to just sit down, breathe, and ask yourself if what you're doing is really true to you. And I've spent so much of my teens and 20s caught in this trap of not living authentically, but not even knowing who I really was. I went to university because I wanted to make my parents proud and I didn't know what to do. I stayed with my first girlfriend because I was afraid of being alone and I didn't know who I was outside of that relationship. This can become our whole lives where we're just pushing ourselves through situations that are either comfortable or that other people tell us to go through or that we just think that we have to do and not truly understand what it means for us to live authentically. Everybody who was on their deathbed regretted the life that they lived where they spent all of their time following somebody else's opinion, somebody else's values, not knowing what they wanted to do. Because I know for sure that when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to regret not living the life that I wanted by taking the risks that I chose to take. And I'm not going to regret how little I listened to other people's opinions or how I went against the social norms. It can feel scary, especially as a young man right now, still figuring out who I am, to put myself out there and to say this is who I am authentically, because society has so many ways of pushing you down and all of the ways that make you unique. And I'm learning now that I don't want to push myself down. I don't want to get to the end of my life and realize that I just listened to other people. I just accepted reality rather than creating the reality I want. And the way that I'm learning now what it means to live authentically is realizing, who do I want to say yes to? That means the future version of me. How am I going to make that person come true? And how can I say no to absolutely everything else that doesn't feel like me? What social obligations do I want to get out of? What kind of jobs do I not want to work? What kind of food don't I want to eat? All of these small actions is what leads to a authentic life. What you say yes to and what you say no to. The second regret of the dying is working too hard. In the book, Bonnie shares a story about a man who sacrificed everything to build a company. He sacrificed his weekends, he sacrificed time with his family. He just focused on growing and working hard. At the end of his career, when he wanted to finally spend time with his family, he discovered that they didn't even like him. They didn't want to spend any time with him. They didn't want to even see him. And with that story, he talks about how he regrets working too hard and sacrificing all of his freedom. And while I understand why men would regret working too hard, especially if they're sacrificing time with their family and sacrificing their weekends and sacrificing their evenings, for us as young men, we have none of those responsibilities or those privileges yet of having a family, of being able to enjoy time. Because honestly, I feel like as a young man, I should be obsessed with working hard. I should be obsessed with growing and becoming successful, because what's the point otherwise? If I choose not to work hard, then I won't have the privilege of enjoying the freedom to spend time with my family, to travel, to have my weekends off. And I feel that while I'm young, it's important to work as hard as I can to truly understand what hard work means. But there is a nuance here, and that's understanding, why am I working so hard and what am I working so hard towards? Because while I understand that this is hard work and my face is completely filthy now, I also have to recognize that, why am I working so hard? Because as a young man, I've been taught how to work hard, but I haven't been taught what's important to me. I don't think anybody can tell you what's important and what's of value. And that's what I now have to learn is how to apply my work ethic towards the things that matter. And when I look at the regrets of the dying and they regret working too hard, what I really see is that they regret working too hard on the things that aren't important to them, that weren't of value to them. And I know that if I can fix that by working hard on the things that matter and obviously wanting to make time for my family and for everything else that I want to do in life, but understanding that I have to work hard and I have to work smart towards the goals that I want to see come true, that helps me understand how I can avoid having that regret when I'm on my deathbed, hopefully when I'm 80, 90, or 100. I won't look back and I won't regret that I worked too hard. My biggest takeaway from this regret is understanding why are you working so hard and also figuring out what you want to work hard towards. Because if you don't want to make the sacrifice of working hard towards a certain goal, then obviously that goal isn't worth it, and that's okay. You don't have to do it, especially if you're going to regret all of the time and all of the effort you're going to put in towards it. It's just not worth it. It's better now that you understand what you want to work towards and be willing to sacrifice and make the time for that goal. The third regret of the dying is wishing to have the courage to express their feelings. As a people pleaser, I know this feeling all too well, where I'm suppressing my emotions to make other people happy and not being true to how I really feel. It's a cliche that men don't express their feelings too well, and they only express two things. Either they're completely silent or then they blow up and they're completely angry. And I think that young men are especially at risk for this potential regret of not being able to express who they really are, what they really want, and how they really feel. It takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there because you have to be emotionally vulnerable and be willing to put yourself out there and let another person know how you truly feel, whether it's about them or whether it's about things you like or don't like. A lot of the conflict in my life stemmed from me not expressing how I really felt, especially with family and the people that I loved, because I didn't want to let them feel that I was burdening them with my emotions. But what this caused in me was a buildup of resentment, frustration, and anger that would inevitably always come out, and in the most unhealthy way, which led to a lot of arguments which I honestly regret now, because I wasn't honest with myself and my feelings and letting other people know what it was that I really felt. It can be scary putting yourself out there at first, but I think that that comes from having the courage to not only express yourself, but the ability to. What that looks like is developing emotional intelligence, but I see this as a skill that young men really struggle with because it's not just intelligence, it's emotional understanding. Understanding where your emotions come from, what causes them, how you react to them, and how you want to express them. Because I've been overwhelmed by my emotions for a long time, and I'm only learning now in my mid-20s how to communicate my feelings without letting them control me. It takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability, but it's important to understand what it is that you really feel and what it is that you really want so that you don't let resentment build up and take over all of the most meaningful relationships in your life, which you can potentially destroy in your future if you don't express yourself. The fourth regret of the dying is losing touch with friends. This is an isolation that I'm honestly experiencing right now. I have to work so much more right now to make money to survive and build a future for myself that I have to sacrifice the time that I would normally spend with my friends. When I was younger, I would always have my friends to play video games, sports, or just hang out. It always seemed to me that my friends were always available whenever I needed them. But now it gets lonely when I have to work all the time. And I wish I could spend time like I did in the past, just wasting a whole day laughing and driving around to nowhere with my boys. I have a friend who lives down the street and I barely see him anymore because our schedules and priorities are just different. But I also have to balance this distance that I feel with them by telling them that this is where I'm at in life right now and that no matter what, I'll always be there for them. Friendships with your boys always seem to be low maintenance. We don't have to tell them every day how much they mean to us, keep in contact with them, and we could see them weeks or months since the last time, and it would just feel like it was yesterday since we last saw them. But what this low maintenance relationship could potentially come
is a no maintenance relationship because there isn't a friendship at all anymore. This comes when we spend so much time alone that it becomes awkward to reach out to that old friend. And this is something that I know that as a man we struggle with keeping in touch because we have to express that we want to see our friends. And this becomes increasingly harder the older we get and our priorities start to change from being by ourselves to building families and having our own career, and it becomes difficult to figure out where your friends are and how to fit them into your life. It's easy for us to feel so bonded with our boys when you spend all of your time doing everything together. Going to school together, playing the same video games, going to the gym, having the same hobbies, even the same work. But the moment we put distance between all of these hobbies and places that we see our friends at, it becomes hard for us to maintain our relationships. Suddenly, we've graduated from school. We don't go to the same gym anymore. We don't play the same video games anymore. We work different jobs. We get a partner. We live in different cities. And then, suddenly, before you know it, it's been months or years since you last heard from your friend. To avoid losing touch with your friends, you have to make it a habit to reach out and spend time with your friends rather than waiting for the other person to act on it. You have to actively push yourself to make sure that the friendship is always being nurtured so that a few years from now, even if you guys haven't been close, you still know that they can rely on you and you can rely on them. It's not hard or crazy to maintain friendships, but it requires effort and work, which we as men struggle with when it comes to reaching out to those we care about. But by constantly nurturing our relationship with our friends, we can make sure that they are still going to be there years from now.
The final and fifth regret of the dying is not allowing happiness. It's almost ironic because I feel that a lot of people spend most of their time alive seeking out happiness. And what that happiness tends to be is actually just short term pleasure. I'm no different. I've spent a lot of days wanting to feel happy, and I would get confused as to what real happiness was, and that would lead me to chase out quick dopamine from food, drugs, porn, everything that just gave it to me in an instant, but would never really lead to long lasting happiness. And as a young man now, I'm still searching for what my happiness is because it's different for everybody. But what I'm coming to understand is that my true happiness is in moments like this. After a long day of work, I'm at the lake and I'm able to just sit down and unwind, enjoy some of the local music, sit by myself, and think about what it is that I want to do next. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be going out and getting a meal or spending time seeking out quick dopamine, although it can be. That can be short term happiness, of course. I'm not denying that. But there is also the point that there needs to be room for seeking out long term happiness. And I think that the reason why so many people died with the regret of not allowing themselves to be happy is that they never let themselves stick to a goal that would give themselves happiness for a long time, a goal that had meaning. Because I think that you can replace the word happiness with meaning. If your life has meaning, you might not be happy in every single moment, but you'll feel like your life has intention and it has purpose. And that is a fuel that is so much stronger than any of the short term happiness that I've built up for myself in my young 20s. It's tough as a young man understanding this and learning how to commit to anything that is longer than a day or a week if we get that far. But I'm coming to realize that all of these regrets of the dying can teach me so much about how not to live my life, about how not to waste the most valuable asset that I have, which is my time. The time that I spend with friends, the time that I spend expressing myself, the time I spend working towards my goals that I actually want, and living the life that is authentic and true to me. All of that is what creates happiness. All of the regrets are connected, and the moment that you feel that you're living a life where you have one of those regrets, it usually means that you have at least another two of the regrets. They're all so connected that it's teaching me a lot about how to be very careful about what it is that I choose to put my energy and attention towards, because that is ultimately what my life is going to be, is the small daily habits and repetitions that I put in every single day. And if they don't make me happy, if they're not authentic to me, if they're not true to how I want to express myself, and if it's not the work that I want to do, then I can't be happy. Before you become an old man filled with regrets waiting to die alone, you can learn from these regrets of the dying and avoid making the same mistakes that they made.